You are looking at a live view of the Falcon 9 rocket on SpaceX Launchpad 39A, preparing for liftoff in just about 10 minutes from now at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Universal Coordinated Time. Welcome to the live webcast of the U.S. Air Force Orbital Test Vehicle 5 mission. I'm Michael Hammersley, a materials engineer in our electronics group, and today SpaceX is launching the U.S. Air Force's X-37B orbital test vehicle from historic Launchpad 39A at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. This will be the fifth launch of the X-37B and its first on a Falcon 9. The orbital test vehicle is an experimental program for a reliable, reusable, unmanned space test platform for the U.S. Air Force. The primary objectives of the orbital test vehicle are twofold: to demonstrate reusable spacecraft technologies for America's future in space, and to operate experiments which can be returned to and then examined on Earth. For today's mission, we will also be attempting to land and recover the first stage. We'll continue to cover this secondary objective once primary mission coverage has concluded. The first stage will be landing back at Landing Zone 1, or LZ1, and today's attempt will be in daylight, which should produce some pretty incredible footage. In the meantime, keep an eye on the countdown clock at the top right of your screen, and you can follow along with the major milestones using the timeline at the bottom of your screen. Launch Complex 39A is the same launch pad that launched Saturn V, Apollo, and Shuttle. SpaceX leased the pad a few years ago and started launching from that pad at the beginning of this year. We've constructed a massive hangar nearby that can house both Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy, which, of course, has 3 first-stage boosters instead of just the one. The vehicle was rolled out of the hangar and raised to vertical on the launch pad about 7 hours ago. Falcon 9 is a 2-stage launch vehicle. It comprises a high-strength aluminum first stage as well as a high-strength aluminum second stage, and they are joined by a composite interstage. The X-37B payload is housed in the fairing sitting atop the second stage. And here you can see some footage of the X-37B inside the fairing after it was encapsulated as it's being moved to mate to the top of the second stage. The X-37B is a little plane that is standing upright, a space plane that is standing upright inside of that fairing. We're also attempting a land landing today 14 kilometers away from the launch site at Landing Zone 1 at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. Landing Zone 1 is a concrete pad 100 yards across. It's the length of a football field. The first successful landing at that pad was nearly 2 years ago when we delivered 11 Orbcomm satellites to low Earth orbit. In total, we've had 15 successful landings, with the most recent occurring on August 24th of this year. Now, as mentioned before, we'll conclude coverage of the primary mission following separation of the second stage, but we'll continue to cover the landing attempt as the first stage makes its way back towards Landing Zone 1. Quick status update on Falcon 9. The launch director conducted a go, no-go poll at T-minus 78 minutes, and everything is proceeding smoothly. Falcon 9 is still loading propellant. Fuel on both stages is complete. The fuel, of course, being liquid kerosene, or RP1, stands for Rocket Propellant 1, and oxidizer, which is our very cold densified liquid oxygen. First stage is about complete with liquid oxygen load. It's about 90-95%. Second stage is about 80%. The next major step is opening the pre-valve sitting between the stage 1 propellant tanks and the stage 1 engines in order to chill in the turbo pumps prior to ignition. And that's occurring right about now. Ground winds are looking very calm, and though we're watching some thick upper altitude cumulus clouds, at the moment we're still go for launch as far as weather's concerned. And now let's take a closer look at exactly what Falcon 9 is launching into orbit.
We have ignition.
The X-37B Orbital Test Vehicle, or OTV, is the nation's first unmanned spaceplane. Managed by the U.S. Air Force Rapid Capabilities Office, the Boeing-built X-37B is a highly flexible testbed platform for a variety of on-orbit demonstrations. This reusable system allows hosted experiments to be returned, inspected, modified, and flown again at dramatically reduced cost.
The X-37B testbed platform is unique because we can tailor our missions to specific user needs and return experiments back for post-flight inspection.
The X-37B is designed to fly and test new technologies, reduce technical risk early in product design, and validate system performance. It has completed 4 successful flights, accumulating over 2,000 days of on-orbit demonstrations. The vehicle provides experiments with power, data, commanding, thermal, and attitude control. The X-37B has repeatedly achieved rapid experiment integration timelines, proving itself to be a responsive test platform.
Leveraging the existing X-37B infrastructure and reusing the platform allows users to focus their investment on the experiment and developing new technologies.
The Air Force Research Laboratory Hall Effect Thruster experiment highlights the value of this reusable spaceplane. This experiment, flown on OTV-4, validated performance enhancements that could only be tested in a space environment. Utilizing the X-37B enabled this complex experiment to be flown in less than 24 months. OTV-5 continues to advance the performance and flexibility of the X-37B as a space technology demonstrator. Today's launch of OTV-5 is the first flight of an X-37B on a SpaceX Falcon 9. The ability to launch the X-37B on multiple platforms will provide responsive and assured access to space. Following the OTV-4 landing in Florida, the program is consolidating launch, recovery, refurbishment, and experiment integration in the repurposed orbiter processing facility. This consolidation reduces processing time and positions the program to be even more responsive.
The reliability, reusability, and responsiveness of the X-37B will fundamentally change how we perform future space missions.
The X-37B, flying tomorrow's technologies today.
If we successfully land today, this will be SpaceX's 16th recovered stage. The next mission using a flight-proven booster will be the EchoStar 105 SES-11 mission, scheduled to launch no earlier than October. The booster for that mission originally flew the CRS-10 mission, which delivered supplies to the International Space Station in February of this year. Reliability is one of the most important, reusability, is one of the most important steps in bringing down launch costs and improving access to space in furtherance of SpaceX's ultimate mission of getting to Mars. Now, as with all our missions, landing the booster continues to be a secondary objective, and it's important to remember that our primary mission today is to get the X-37B into orbit around the Earth. Final status update. Fuel is now fully loaded. The spacecraft Falcon 9 is moving towards full internal power. It means it's running on its own batteries. Vehicle tanks are fully pressed up, currently working, no issues. Weather is go, range is go. Let's listen in to the last minutes of terminal count.
Stage 2 helium return manifold secured.
Stromberg lower has ended. Stromberg's at 88.3 degrees.
Stage 2 TVC motion nominal.
Stage 2 lock secured. Falcon 9 is on internal power. Vehicles in self-align.
Ground gas closeout is started.
Stage 1A and Stage 2 cryhelium secured.
Gas closeouts is complete.
AFTS is ready for launch.
Falcon 9 is in startup. Stage 1 and Stage 2 present for flight.
LDOs go for launch.
T-minus 30 seconds.
Stage 1 pressing 2 liftoff pressures. Falcon 9's configured
T-minus
for
15
flight.
seconds. Stand by for terminal count. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
Power and telemetry nominal.
We've had successful liftoff of the Falcon 9. Look closely, we're about to move through supersonic. You may actually see the vapor cone that forms from the shockwave if we're lucky. Otherwise, we're coming up shortly on max Q, which is maximum aerodynamic pressure, the point at which Falcon 9 is pushing hardest against the atmosphere.
MVAC engine tells me going.
And there you heard the MVAC engine chill, which prepares the second stage engine for ignition. Main engine cutoff is coming up in about 40 seconds from now, shortly followed by both stage separation and then second engine start. We'll be concluding coverage of the primary mission at that point.
And my right countdown net, that second stage callouts will be performed on LVNet.
Watch for main engine cutoff coming up shortly.
McMiko. Stage separation.
Now we've had successful second stage separation and ignition. Notice the vehicle is currently, or the first stage is currently doing a fast flip maneuver and a boost back burn. The fast flip is to get it headed back towards landing zone 1 as quickly as possible, and the boost back burn, or to get it in the right orientation to head back, and the boost back burn actually pushes it back towards landing zone 1. We've got 3 engines burning at the moment, though we're in the outer reaches of the atmosphere, so you can't actually see any visible flame, but you'll notice indications that the engines are on just above the first stage there in this shot.
Stage 1 boost back burn shut down.
And the boost back burn has now ended. Notice that the vehicle is still climbing. There you saw the grid fins just opened up. These grid fins are recently moved to being made out of titanium, which is a much higher temperature material than aluminum, and that's better able to stand the high temperatures of re-entry. You'll also notice the brief spurts of what appear to be white smoke. Those are our nitrogen thrusters. And those control the orientation of the vehicle when the grid fins aren't able to, because there's no atmosphere. Grid fins, of course, requiring atmosphere to operate. First stage continuing its parabolic arc, heading towards landing zone 1, starting to descend back towards Earth. We're still about a minute and a half or so away from the re-entry burn, which is going to slow the vehicle down to only a couple times the speed of sound before re-entering the atmosphere. Re-entry burn coming up in about 1 minute. As you can see, the speed of the first stage is still rapidly increasing. The re-entry burn is going to slow that back down in order to keep those aerodynamic forces upon re-entry at a minimum. Those cold gas thrusters still adjusting the attitude of the first stage.
Entry startup.
There's the re-entry burn. This will last for another 15 seconds or so, rapidly decreasing the entering velocity.
Entry burn shut down.
Successful conclusion of the re-entry burn. You can notice that's ground underneath Falcon 9 there, heading toward landing zone 1. We're about to slow back down through the speed of sound. You notice those vibrations as that is coming up.
Stage 1 AFTS has saved.
Stage 1 is transonic.
Coming up in just a few seconds now, we're going to begin the landing burn. That will slow the vehicle down for a gentle touchdown.
Landing burn started.
This is a single engine burn, which allows for more control. And there you can see it on the screen on your right there, descending through the clouds, headed towards the concrete pad.
Landing legs deployed. The Falcon has successfully landed. Landing operators, please move to procedure 11.100 for section 3.
And there we had it. You can see the landing legs deployed. That's Falcon 9 standing proud at landing zone 1. At that point, or at this point, with the successful landing of the first stage, we'll be ending today's webcast. It was a very smooth countdown. Everything proceeded nominally. The weather was looking potentially a bit tricky with those clouds, but ended up being a go. Smooth first stage ascent, smooth second stage separation and start, and then that beautiful landing that you just saw. So we'd like to thank the Air Force for today's mission and support, the range for also providing support, and to you for tuning in. If you'd like to join us at SpaceX, you can check us out at spacex.com/careers. Otherwise, look for updates on the next mission on our social platforms and on our website. Thank you again for joining, and see you next time.